After all the sacrifices she made in supporting him when he was jobless, he left her and followed a side chick who ripped him off all his money. Now he has come back begging. Do you think his wife will accept him after everything he did? Let's find out. Kindly subscribe to stay updated. One day, as Bernard prepared for work, he felt unsettled. His wife calmed him down, asking him to breathe in and out. He appreciated her and said he loved her. Meanwhile, his daughter, feeling jealous, asked if he didn't love her too. He jokingly responded and assured her that he loved her very much. As Bernard got ready to leave, Mary, his wife, gave him the car keys, insisting he use them for work. However, she expressed concern about her delivery and how she intended to take their daughter to school. She suggested she would use a cab. That same day, Mary had a pleasant and educational conversation with her daughter, then quickly rushed to check the food she had on the stove. Just then, Bernard came in feeling down, ignoring his daughter's greeting and going straight inside. Mary observed his mood and reassured their daughter, explaining that her dad had a lot on his mind. Later, Mary approached Bernard to console him, suggesting that his mood shouldn't affect their daughter. He confided in her, saying he didn't want his daughter to see him failing and unable to provide for the family. He assured Mary he would talk to her. His wife comforted him, assuring him that their challenges would soon be over. However, Bernard, feeling like a failure, doubted her words, believing that all his efforts had not yielded anything. She encouraged him and hugged him. The following day, as Bernard took his daughter to school, she happily noted that he seemed more cheerful. He explained that Daddy had been going through a lot lately and apologized for making her feel left out. His daughter then shared a quote about happiness and thankfulness that her teacher had taught her. Bernard was impressed and spoke kind words to her. That same day, Mary's mom visited and shared her challenges regarding her landlord increasing her shop rent. She requested that Mary support her business, but Mary explained that they had just paid their daughter's school fees and were trying to keep up financially. Immediately, her mother started blaming her husband, saying he was not supportive. Mary defended her husband, saying it was just a matter of time before he could fully provide for the family. However, her mother kept nagging. Do you think Mary's mother's reaction was right? Well, kindly drop your thoughts in the comment section. The following day, Bernard came home happy, gave his daughter a gift, and shared the good news about an ongoing contract worth 2.5 million naira. They both rejoiced. Meanwhile, Bernard showed his client the properties he intended to sell, but she insisted that he give her a 5 million naira discount. Since it wasn't profitable for him, she left, leaving Bernard disappointed. That same night, Bernard expressed his frustration to his wife, saying he had tried everything. He complained that she was the only one providing for the family and that he felt like a failure. Mary consoled him and reassured him that everything would be okay. The following day, Mary's mom visited again, met Bernard, and insulted him, calling him jobless and accusing him of living off her daughter. She said all kinds of offensive words to him. When Mary arrived, she immediately apologized to her husband for her mother's behavior as he left. Meanwhile, Mary apologized and explained to Bernard what had happened, how her mother found out that she was the one providing for the family. She told him that when her mother asked for money, she explained that they had just paid their daughter's school fees together. However, her mother assumed that Mary was the only one paying the fees. The following day, Bernard was working on his laptop as he discussed his plans to sell properties and acres of land, hoping for a big real estate deal. That same day, during dinner, Bernard called his wife and asked her to serve him more food. As Mary was about to get up, her mother insulted Bernard, saying he couldn't provide for his family and uttering offensive words. Immediately, Bernard left the table, while Mary rebuked her mother and insisted that she leave at once. Later that day, as Mary was driving, she received a call from an old friend. They exchanged pleasantries, and her friend offered her a contract deal on some properties for Bernard to handle. Mary sincerely appreciated her friend for the business opportunity. When Mary got home, she explained the deal to her husband, but he was hesitant because of the countless deals he had lost in the past. However, Mary remained optimistic and encouraged him to give it a shot, which he eventually accepted. That night, Bernard prepared his outfit for his business meeting the next day. The following day, Bernard came home excited and shared the good news with his wife. He had secured the deal and told her that their lives were about to change for the better. A few months later, Bernard was in his office discussing a business deal with a client when his wife arrived. They exchanged pleasantries and had a great time talking. The next day, Mary expressed concern to her husband about struggling to get pregnant. Bernard reassured her not to worry, telling her that the pregnancy would happen in God's perfect timing. He comforted and cheered her up. That same day, Bernard discussed a business deal with a client about the landed properties he wanted to invest in. As Bernard was about to leave, a lady accidentally bumped into him. He apologized to her and then left. That same night, while Bernard was driving, he saw the same lady being thrown out of a car as if she had been robbed. He offered her a ride home, and she appreciated his kindness. Before leaving, he gave her his business card in case she needed any further help. When Bernard got home, he explained that a client meeting had delayed him, but he didn't mention the lady he had helped. The following week, Mary visited her mother with her daughter. They exchanged pleasantries, and Mary shared the good news about her husband's breakthrough in his business. They all rejoiced together. The next day, the same lady visited Bernard's office to thank him for helping her the other night. She then invited him to a dinner party at her place. Bernard contemplated whether to go, considering his busy schedule, but eventually accepted the invitation. Guys, do you think Bernard, a married man, is making the right decision? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. That same evening at her house, Bernard had dinner with her, and they engaged in a pleasant conversation. Suddenly, Bernard received a call from his wife. He apologized for not calling earlier and told her he was in an important meeting. Immediately after, he stood up to leave, but the lady stopped him and confessed that she couldn't get him off her mind since they met. She then attempted to seduce him, but Bernard refused, firmly stating that he was a married man. That night, Bernard's wife attempted to make love to him, but he ignored her, saying he was not in the mood. He then reflected on how he had been unfaithful with the woman he had met previously. The following morning, as they ate breakfast, Bernard was focused on his phone. His wife expressed her concern, asking him to focus on the meal and enjoy each other's company. However, Bernard rebuked her and responded harshly, received a call, and immediately left for a meeting, abandoning his family at the table. That same night, Bernard visited the woman and spent time with her. Meanwhile, his wife, feeling worried about his whereabouts, kept calling him, but he ignored her and continued enjoying the woman's company. The next day, when Bernard returned home, his wife confronted him about his constant absence and late nights. She also expressed her frustration over his refusal to be intimate with her. Bernard arrogantly and harshly responded, saying he had been very busy lately. He then cruelly complained that despite their intimacy, she had not conceived a child, adding that he was tired of it. He went as far as calling her a fruitless tree before walking out. Guys, do you think Bernard's words were justified? Kindly share your opinion in the comments section. That same day, Bernard spent time with the woman named Sandra, who explained that her aunt owns one of the largest real estate companies. Bernard felt really happy, seeing it as an opportunity for both himself and his company. Meanwhile, Mary was picking up her husband's clothes to wash when she noticed a lipstick stain and began to suspect her husband. As Bernard left Sandra's house and entered his car, he was ready to leave immediately. The following day, Bernard's daughter pleaded with him to attend a PTA meeting at school, but Bernard refused and harshly told her to go ask her mother instead. His daughter left, upset. That same day, Mary complained to her mother about Bernard's constant lateness and her suspicions that he was cheating on her. She insisted that her mother speak to him. Her mother was upset hearing this. The next day, Mary's mother barged into Bernard's office, ignoring his secretary. Bernard immediately ended his call and asked his secretary to leave. He then suggested that she sit down as Mary's mother began to complain about his attitude toward his wife. Bernard calmed the tension by offering to support her business with 5 million naira. In an attempt to win her over, he transferred the money immediately. Mary's mother changed her tone, appreciating him and leaving the original reason for her visit behind. That same day, Bernard asked Sandra about her aunt, but she explained that her aunt had been busy lately. Bernard told Sandra that he had clients willing to pay double for the landed properties, and he convinced Sandra to talk to her aunt. With her influence, he hoped to secure the deal. Sandra responded that she would see what she could do. Meanwhile, Mary's mother spoke to Mary, calming her down about her husband. But Mary, still upset, told her mother about all her suspicions and experiences. Her mother suggested that Mary couldn't just assume things until she saw him red-handed. Then she would know if he was guilty. Her mother also expressed her belief that their marriage could still work, revealing that Bernard had supported her business with 5 million naira. Mary felt disappointed in her mother and left. That evening, Mary's daughter waited for her dad to celebrate her birthday, but Mary insisted she go to sleep, explaining that her dad couldn't make it. She responded, saying that her dad didn't love her anymore, but Mary reassured her not to feel bad about her father. The following day, Sandra told Bernard that she was pregnant. Bernard felt happy, but Sandra expressed her concerns, noting that he was married. Bernard ignored her worries, claiming that a child is a blessing. That same day, Bernard's daughter came to him to sing for her, but he ignored her. She persisted, and he yelled at her, telling her to go meet her mother. Mary, her mother, came and calmed the tension, explaining that she was just a child seeking care and attention from her father. Bernard, however, nagged, saying that care and attention didn't pay the bills in the house. As they left, he answered a call from Sandra's aunt, who asked about his plans regarding Sandra's pregnancy. He insisted he would marry her, and they began discussing the work plan. That same night, Bernard shared his frustrations with Sandra, telling her that he needed funds to push the project he was pursuing. Sandra suggested that he take out a loan from the bank, and he approved the idea. The following day, Bernard brought Sandra to his house and introduced her to his wife, telling her that Sandra was carrying his child and would be living with them. Mary felt disappointed and tried to talk to her husband, but he ignored her, and she began crying. The next day, Bernard called Sandra's aunt, who insisted that he present an important document before the following morning. Meanwhile, Mary packed her things to leave with her daughter, but Bernard remained arrogant and spoke to them nonchalantly. Mary's mother tried to talk to him, but he disregarded her. They exchanged words before leaving. That same day, Bernard spent time with Sandra, while Mary discovered that she was pregnant. A few days later, Sandra traveled to Abuja to meet her aunt, and Bernard saw her off. Meanwhile, Mary cried about her broken home, and her mother and daughter comforted her. Weeks later, Bernard receives a call from a client who tells him that all the houses his company bought have fake documents. That same day, Bernard's business partner explained that Sandra was part of the plan all along to deceive him and take advantage of his business. He tells Bernard that Sandra is pregnant with his child, but his friend warns him that it's all part of their scheme. That night, Bernard sat in his living room, reflecting on his life. Meanwhile, Sandra thought about how she had planned her moves to deceive Bernard and felt happy with the money she had gotten. A few days later, the bank arrived and repossessed his house, not allowing him to take any of his belongings. That same day, Bernard went to Mary's mother's house to beg for forgiveness, but she yelled at him, telling him to leave. He sat outside, reflecting on his life with regret. He then returned and begged Mary's mother for a second chance with his family. Mary came and confronted him, blaming him for his actions, and told him that her lawyer would be sending him divorce papers. She left. Guys, do you think Mary's reaction to her husband was justified? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. If you enjoyed this story, kindly subscribe to this channel to get more of our latest uploads.